Dear listeners, this is not the full version of Wicked City. It is a podcast review of the English dub of the film. This film is available on home video from Discotek Media and is streaming on High Dive, Retro Crush, Midnight Pulp, Tubi TV, and Pluto TV, among other places. Please support the official release. Warning, the Dub Talk podcast contains language and content that may not be suitable for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. There will be spoilers for Wicked City in this episode, so please use caution if you haven't watched the movie yet. You should really watch the movie first. Finally, the opinions expressed are those of the individual participants and may not reflect the Dub Talk podcast as a whole. Enjoy the show. Hello, dear listeners, and welcome back to a special episode of Summer at the Movies, where we here at Dub Talk talk about the latest and greatest in anime dubs and movies. Except not this time, because this one's really old.
And other reasons, but...
Yeah. Yes. Today we are going to be covering the 1987 OVA Wicked City, produced by Madhouse for Japan Home Video, for the home video market.
I was wondering if this got a theatrical release or not, because it was in 4:3, so I was a little confused.
I read up a little, and it sounds like it did briefly get shown in theaters at the time, but it sounds like it was made as a straight-to-video release, which is why it's in 4:3. And I think it's got like theatrical releases since then, obviously, but like this was.
It does have big OVA energy, so you know.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, this is. I mean, if nothing else, the fact that Yoshiaki Kawajira is on it, I feel like he is a dude who directed a lot of like, hey, you're talented and competent. We're gonna give you money to direct something we can put in video stores that'll be like. It'll have enough plot to it that it can be taken seriously, but also be a little sleazy and violent, no nudity. It'll be great. Make $1 million.
But anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go on.
No, it is an OVA, which is that form of OVA is very much something that I feel like, especially younger fans, that's just a foreign concept to them. Like,
we really don't get anime like this anymore, unfortunately.
Oh, absolutely not. I was watching this and it was like, man, this is great. Why don't?
Yeah, I was thinking we really don't get anime like this anymore. I wish I liked this.
That is the trick of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I did enjoy this, but it's a lot, and we'll get into that in a minute.
Just continue on. So
anyway, directed by Kawajira, it is based on a novel series by Hideyuki Kikuchi, who is the guy who writes the Vampire Hunter D novels.
Right.
Yes. Apparently it was originally supposed to be just like a 35-minute short, and then when they turned it in, it was like, oh, this is great. Can you make it like twice as long? Which is very funny to me, but also sounds like, that was the late 80s. It was a bubble economy. Everyone had too much money. That sounds about right.
Yeah. We're on our way to that soon. So,
yeah. And obviously, it is often fun to watch these things with the dub before you listen to this. But I will just give you a heads up. This movie is just it is a pile of content warnings.
I was thinking the other day, and this is something I was thinking in the shower. Was something I wanted to say. If your favorite anime is like Azumanga Daioh or something, maybe skip this one.
Oh, I definitely had a moment watching this at the very beginning of the movie. It's like, I always forget that like these days when you have like fan service and raunchiness in anime, that usually just means like, cleavage and panty shots. And back in the 80s, that just meant like, oh, this is just a softcore porn scene.
Yeah, it's like, just straight up sexual assault and stuff like that. Great,
There's gonna be two more of them later in this 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
Okay? Sure. Yeah, so I'm like, sure, sex, nudity, there's some sexual assault, grotesque imagery, spider lady.
Vagina teeth, yeah.
Exactly. So like, I this is definitely a movie for some people, but if those sound like they're going to be a bad time, feel free to skip this one. I don't know if you'll get a lot out of it.
I'm a guy who loves this era of anime, and even I'm like, okay, all right.
This is part of the straight to VHS OVA style that reminds me of like American movies that also went straight to video, where it was like, we need to justify a sex scene.
Yeah.
Assault, that'll work.
Before we continue, I want to make it clear, I will have good things to say about this. But
there's good things in this movie, but like it is a men's adventure novel turned into an anime movie from 1987.
Yeah.
Just adjust your expectations, if only for your own enjoyment, you know?
Yeah.
Anyways. This was released in 1987. It got picked up by Streamline in 1993 for film distribution and home video release. But, funnily enough, I don't really understand how this works exactly. I'm assuming this is because the language markets for this kind of licensing were a lot more divided. At more or less the same time, Manga Entertainment picked it up for distribution in the United Kingdom and made their own dub. We are pretty much just going to only cover the Streamline dub, in no small part because, like, if you go watch this streaming anywhere and it's dubbed, you're going to get the Streamline version.
Yeah.
And I did watch the Manga UK dub. I'll chime in with thoughts as I need to, but the main thing I got is that it's not terribly different, except there's more swearing. The acting is a little more wooden, and they give one of the characters a racist, like, Asian man accent, and it's a little uncomfortable. Because, like, I assure you, like, everyone in the British dub, as far as I can tell, is a white person.
I was about to say, did manga do that before? But I was thinking of the Streamline dub of Vampire Hunter D, actually, of all things, where they had Count, the main bad guy. They gave him a Dracula accent.
See, that at least makes sense because
yeah, I mean,
Dracula.
You see the logic, but it's still silly, you know.
It's very like it was the 80s. It was like or the early 90s, I guess. But it was like we'll give him Bela Lugosi voice because that's how vampires sound.
Right.
Anyways, but we will primarily be covering the Streamline dub. Because again, it's more widely available. It's also, I would also just say it's like the better of the two. Like it's still, early 90s anime dub, like, caveats, etc. But of the two of them, this is the stronger version anyways. So
yeah.
Anyways, and it also has some names you'll probably recognize in it, which is always fun because the Manga UK dubs seem to mostly be filled with like British TV actors that I've never heard of. So
if you're a big English dub Lupin fan, you'll probably know some of these names.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. So, what's Wicked City about? I should...
What is it about? That's a good question.
This happens every time I record a fucking episode. I just completely space on, like, what is this movie about? So, a plot summary taken from Anime News Network. For centuries, a secret peace treaty has existed between Earth and the Black World, a parallel dimension populated by shape-changers possessing awesome supernatural powers. But now that pact is up for renewal, and a militant faction from the Black World plans to do everything in their power to stop the treaty from being signed. The fate of the world now rests in the ability of a pair of special agents, one human, the other a shape-changer from the Distaff dimension, to make sure things go according to plan. Runs about 87 minutes. It's a good time. Anyways...
I can't know the exact quote, but I do think at some point in this dub they refer to the demon race as like black people or the black race or something. And I was just like, you didn't really think that one through, did you?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
One of the things that has stood out to me as I've gotten to know about Streamline is I feel like they have this reputation for like being very loose with their adaptations, which as far as I can tell is not actually that true.
It's not that true. They do change some things here and there. Like if you're a Dirty Pair fan, yeah, they change some things, but most of the time it's pretty on the nose. I think Fist of the North Star got it the worst, but even then it's not that bad.
I feel like a lot of this is just people who are still mad at Carl Macek for Robotech, and they decided...
And I don't know why. I'm a big Carl Macek apologist, honestly. Like
he did the absolute best he could in the circumstances he was given,
and
like,
it's never.
I don't know.
It's never easy to work with Menachem Golem, So.
Oh God, that's right.
Yep, Robotech the movie. Yep, that was it.
I forgot.
That was a canon project. Yep.
God, what a time. Anyways, but actually, speaking of Carl Macek, let's talk about our cast on our crew on this. Which, for our directors, surprise, surprise, since I'm pretty sure he directed, like, at least half of everything Streamline ever put out. We have Carl Masick, and also assisting him, we have Gregory Snegoff, who is also the scriptwriter on this.
I did not know that. That's actually really interesting when we get to it later. So
indeed. Excuse me. Masick has directed, like, he directed a big old pile of things back in the day. Crying Freeman, he does the Streamline Dirty Pair dubs, he did the old Streamline Castle Cagliostro. Like I said, about 50% of everything Streamline dubbed before they went under was done by him. So.
Fist of North Star, we mentioned it before, yeah. He did that one. Yep.
As far as directing goes, Snegoff, he's done he did the Golgo 13, The Professional.
I was gonna say, yeah, right? Like he worked on Golgo, I thought.
Yep. No, he did. He was the director on The Professional for the Streamline dub. He directed Lily Cat. I always bring this up because it amuses me. He was the director behind the like Captain Harlock, Queen Millennia, like mashup Robotech style series that was out for a while. That like no one remembers because like that thing's never going to see the light of day again. I can imagine, but I'm always just amused by its existence.
It was a massacring. Is that what it was, or something?
That I believe it was the same. It's like, well, we have these two vaguely related properties that do not meet syndication episode numbers by themselves, but if we can stitch them together, we can get there, guys.
I say that with love, and only because I've read that term on TV tropes. So.
It's one of those things where like I kind of hate it conceptually, but also like that's a good pun.
Yeah.
And as a scriptwriter, Gregory, he worked for a bunch of Streamline. He wrote Crying Freeman. He wrote Megazone 23. And to my complete shock and surprise, he also did some script work on Cyberpunk Edgerunners, the Netflix anime.
I was about to ask if he was still in the industry, but that's actually really interesting.
He's still it doesn't seem to do it very consistently, but like he's still working, which is astonishing to me. I'm not used to, especially the crew side of people from like this era of anime dubbing.
Yeah,
you know, there's some people like
I mean, these are the golden oldies basically of the dubbing industry. So
like there's still some of them kicking around, but they're mostly actors. I'm not used to people who aside from like Tony Oliver, I'm not used to seeing like people who did direction and script writing still popping up.
Well, a lot of the Streamline actors were like TV actors, and that's how they got into anime. So
he's not from Streamline, but like there's nothing funnier than like poking around and seeing like, hey, do you know Richard Epcar was in this random TV show back in the day? And it's like, that is Richard Epcar. He's a lot taller than I was expecting. Jeez.
And I always love to mention how Apollo from Star Trek was in some anime too. Michael Forrest, I believe that's his name.
I believe we did an episode on Lily Cat last year.
Yes.
I believe he is in that. I believe, and I believe I brought that up because that's wild.
When we did the Big O.
Oh yeah, he's in that too, isn't he?
Because I hosted that episode. That's right.
I remember that. Good times.
Yep.
All right. So, also there was the Manga Ute dub. I'm trying to see. Was there anything interesting these people worked on? Not like 100. Like most of them is like most of the people they worked on other Manga UK dubs.
The Legend of Arslan. I don't know, or something.
I mean, the only one that stands out is it was directed by a guy named Michael Bakewell, who he did Dominion Tank Police, which is a favorite of mine.
All right, yeah, that makes sense.
And he also directed the one for Angel Cop.
Right. I think. God, did they do Mad Bull or Mad Dog? What am I thinking of?
Mad Bull 34. I'm trying to remember. Some of the people from the Manga UK dub, like Mad Bull, popped up in their credits. So
I was going to say because I think
that
was a British dub. That was a bunch of Brits doing American accents. So.
Oh, good times.
Yep.
The wild west of early '90s anime.
I know.
Dubbing.
I mean, like it's. I don't know if it's better now the way it's done because it was more interesting back then. I'll say that. So
it's one of those things where like there's the amount of professionalism has gone up considerably, but sometimes no one gave a shit about them anymore. They could just do more or less whatever as long as it didn't violate contract.
The new frontier has unfortunately been plowed over at this point. So
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, I do kind of miss it.
I do too, honestly. It was kind of cool, like especially as a Lupin fan, seeing like all the weird different dubs of Lupin that you can find. So, you know.
We should all treasure our copy of the Mystery of Momo Blu-ray that has all 4 English dubs that were made for it. All right, so tell me, what did you think about the dub as a whole?
It's a good dub. Like, genuinely. My feelings of this project aside, it's a strong dub. It's a little flat, but the characters are a little flat, so I can't really bemoan the actors for that. And we'll actually get into it later. I actually really like the performance of the main character, honestly. But it's... sometimes I did have a little trouble hearing characters, I will say that, but I don't know if that's necessarily a problem of the dub itself. But overall, I actually did find myself thinking this is a pretty strong dub. I like the way they kind of play it like a film noir. I think that really benefits it a lot. I'm not sure if there's anything that much I have to really say specifically aside from that. But it works for what it is because I think they had the right attitude and the right the right approach to the whole project.
I agree. I remember I've been reading up on this, and apparently back when Streamline was first founded, I think it was excuse me, I think it was basically Carl Masick and Jerry Beck wrote up a list of here's kind of the things we'd really like to get as kind of just a standard set themselves. And Wicked City was on there and took the longest for them to get for whatever reason. I forgot the specifics. I'm assuming it was probably just legal whatever. But I think you can see that in here. This is clearly something they wanted to work on, both in that I think they thought it would do well, but also I think they enjoyed these things.
I think Carl Masick was so desperate to prove that anime wasn't just kid stuff that he was looking for the raunchiest, darkest stuff he could basically find.
I think that's both true and also if you get this on home video, there's a very nice commentary on the Discotheque release by Mike Toole where he kind of talks a little bit about kind of the business side of things. And he's talking about how there was very much this understanding in the home video market that basically stuff like that rented really, really well. So if you put that out, it would do essentially there was very much an understanding of oh, these are the money makers. So I think there's also just the added benefit of well, we can put this out and it'll also do, we enjoy it, but also it'll do very well for our bottom line, which we're business. We can't just spend all our time putting out art house movies that 5 people will enjoy. Not that that was what Streamline did necessarily, but you get the idea. So I think a benefit you see here is they definitely they understand what the movie is. There's not a lot of attempts to oh, we're gonna try and punch it up or anything. There's very much sense of it's a supernatural. It's very there's a lot of noir in its DNA. Everyone's very sort of tough and they're they go down fighting and so on.
Yeah,
I think there's except for Giuseppe, but we'll get to him later.
right.
But I think just a good sense of oh, we it's a relatively serious movie. We're gonna play it straight. We're gonna kind of cast and direct people as necessary to capture that. It's one of these things where a lot of times I think the sign of a good dub is kind of just how much does the adaptation and performances match the source material in some way.
Yeah.
At the very least, this has a lot of straight to video B movie in its DNA in some variety, and I feel no, this sounds like one of those. This is the kind of acting and performance I would expect out of a movie of this style and feel, and I feel that's a credit to the quality of the dub that they're able to capture that. Yeah, no. Opinions on the film itself, which we'll get into later, it's well made. I like it. And I already mentioned, the Magi Take It Up is similar, but not quite as good. So.
Yeah, I wish I had watched it. I mean, I was going to try to, at least, the first half of it, if I could, but I was just having trouble being able to get my hands on it, so.
It happens. That's fine. It happens. It's definitely interesting from an historical perspective because it is, again, it's not super different.
Yeah.
But it's kind of I'd say you can give this a watch. You can give it a watch for interest, and beyond that, I'd say either stick to the dub or the Japanese because those are probably going to be better.
And I'm glad I've seen this movie now, honestly. So
no, this is one of these ones that I've always been very familiar with for.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just old enough that when I was getting into anime, there were still lots of write-ups of kind of the stuff that was just always in all the VHS stores because there wasn't that much anime publicly available yet. So this has definitely been one I've heard of for decades, even though for a long time I didn't really know anything about it other than it's I don't, it's the sort of thing where
Mm-hmm.
if it showed up on some on-demand service, it's oh, it is a TVMA rating. Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably gonna, God help me, I'm gonna try to check out Demon City Shinjuku after this. So
Yeah, that was kind of my thought. It was like I want to hit up the other ones from kind of this style. What was I? All right. So, thoughts on the dub as a whole. We will now get into our first set of characters, which are various minor characters of some note, basically, because it's only a 90-minute movie, and there's like 3 main characters and a lot of other.
And there's like 20 secondary characters, so
I actually had a hard time putting this together because it's like half of you are only in one scene. Who do I bother including or cutting?
Yeah, I mean, like literally, there's only one character of these people that I think is even worth mentioning, honestly. So
it literally at the end was basically it's like, all right, we have the main bad guy, and then I just picked the 3 who like I relatively enjoyed their performance enough, but again, like almost all these people only show up once.
Oh my god, yeah, no, I just realized who the first character is.
Yes, okay. So here's a fun. So our first guy,
because I was so distracted from what was going on in that scene that I wasn't even paying attention.
So our first character is, depending on which dub you look at, is either credited as Demon Radical's leader or Mr. Shadow. According to Mike Toole, this character doesn't really have a name in the book, and he doesn't really have a name in the movie either. Like, these are just kind of, I don't know where Mr. Shadow comes from, and Demon Radical's leader is just like, he's the head of the demons. We're trying to stop this pact from getting rewritten. And beyond that, he's just sort of a big, gross demon guy who looks like a human for a little bit, and that's who he is. He shows up in like the last third to be a big nuisance, and then eventually gets killed by lightning.
Yeah, Thor comes down or whatever. I mean,
pretty much. We have him. We have the Spider-Woman, who's probably the most visually memorable character because she's
I wonder why.
Lady. She's a big spider lady with a big teethy mouth for a crotch. The movie starts with her coming in within about 2 seconds of biting our lead's dick off. So it's that kind of movie.
Man.
If this movie sounds like a thing you'll enjoy, you're really gonna enjoy it. And if it sounds miserable, please skip it. You're not gonna enjoy anything.
I mean,
about
it's still historically important. I feel like I can appreciate that it exists. I will say that. So.
No, this reminds me of a lot of sort of like. Often kind of like interesting genre movies I've seen where like they're definitely historically important, but it's also like, oh, this is so 1987.
Yeah, well,
and not necessarily in a good way.
It's so funny because like I see a lot of parallels between this and Space Adventure Cobra of all things. But, but Space Adventure Cobra is this, but it's like fun. It's like lighthearted and it's easygoing. None of the women really ever feel like they're in danger or anything like that. Like, obviously some bad things happen to some of the girls in the show and whatever, but it never feels like it's looking down on them,
No, they're both very much of that same kind of like men's adventure fiction.
Yeah.
But like Cobra's much more the like fun freewheeling version, and this is much more the like seedy, grimy version.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, we have the Spider-Woman she's an agent of the demons, and she causes a lot of problems and shows up a lot in promo materials because
we never see what happened to the woman she pretends to be, by the way.
Well, in the dub, she claims that she's like, oh, I just knocked her out.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that's probably not true.
Well, yeah, part of me is just like, why would you even have her say that? Like, what difference does it make? So
this feels like some sort of attempt to be like, all right.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. I did not get a chance to watch it in Japanese, so maybe they say that in the Japanese as well. This is some sort of attempt to have it be like marginally less gruesome, but I'm honestly not sure. Next up, we have a guy named Jin. At one point, our leads take the guy who's supposed to be a linchpin for these treaty talks to a hotel to keep him safe, and this guy named Jin shows up to cause problems. He wears extremely 80s sunglasses.
Okay,
and, that guy, and he apparently used to have a thing with our female lead,
and he's still trying to.
He's still trying to. It gets weird and gross, but she does kill him with her hair, which is a pretty fun image. So there's that. And then I just threw him in here because I just enjoyed him. At the hotel, there's also the hotel manager. He does not have a name. He is just the hotel manager. And I just threw him in here because he was more entertaining.
He's
than
got
I
more
expected.
lines than most other characters in this movie.
Yeah, that too.
So
Yeah, it was pretty much just like we spent like a good 15 minutes around this
Yeah.
guy. I feel like that.
actually, his
pushes him
scenes
over
with
the
Taki are all right. Honestly, they're
No,
okay.
that was part of it. Is I liked his bits with Taki, and it
Yeah.
turns out he's got a robo arm that gets blown off at one point.
Oh, is that what it was?
Apparently,
I didn't catch that. Oh my god! Like,
again, I'm not 100% sure if that is an invention of the dub or not, because like it's established the demons can hide in this world by kind of constructing robo bodies to be in. So
right.
I'm not sure, and on some level I don't care that much because it's like that was great. I don't really care about the logistics of it. That was great.
Yeah.
So yeah, playing these characters, the leader is being played by Jeff Winkless, who, among other things, he plays Captain Nemo in the streamlined dub of Nadia, The Secret of Blue Water, and he is, in fact, as we were talking about earlier, he is Count Magnus Lee from Vampire Hunter D.
Right.
The Spider-Woman is played by Eddie Mirren, who is... Well, she seemed to be the go-to Fujiko Mine for
Yeah,
streamlined.
she was like one of the. She was Fujiko before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before most of them.
Yeah, no, I think I know one of those has like a slightly different cast list, but I think she was the Fujiko in most of the Lupin Streamline dubs, and also she's Anjuwoman and Gatomon, which was news to me.
She apparently still does stuff or something.
That sounds right. Like,
I thought
think
I
she's
read that she was still working, but
that sounds right. Like I always look at these through ANN, which does not date when shows are, so I can never quite tell. But like her resume is long enough that I feel like she probably is still acting in some capacity.
Yeah,
even if she's not necessarily doing like anime dubs anymore. Jin is being played by Kerrigan Mahan. He's in a bunch of stuff. He's Tatsumi in Doom Megapolis. He's Kimball Kinnison in the Lensman dub, which no one will ever see again. Because,
I did. I've seen it.
I'll probably see it at some point myself, but the legal nonsense behind that movie just amuses me to no end because it's so goofy.
It's a weird movie. If you could find it, I recommend watching it if you want to see where Star Wars came from. So
and the hotel manager is being played by David Poval. He plays Zenigata in most of the streamlined Lupin movies. He's Goken Ishida in Crying Freeman, among other roles. Obviously, none of these characters are on screen for very long.
Yeah.
But what impressions did you have of them? Or any of the minor characters for that matter?
I jokes aside, I actually think Eddie Meerman did a good job as the Spider Lady. Mm-hmm. So, I think she brought a lot of her Fujiko experience to that role, which I think helped it a lot. Here's the thing, though. These are all really good voice actors. Mm-hmm. Like, genuinely. And this is something I've always loved about streamlined dubs, is that they approach this like adults. Like, they are performing, like, in, like, a Dick Wolf drama, honestly. Mm-hmm. Like, they treat it like they are on stage in a legit, like, American production. Mm-hmm. And that's something I've always really appreciated about Streamline. Even if their dubs aren't 100% accurate all the time, they still approach it like they are treating it like it's for adults, which obviously Wicked City is. Mm-hmm. But and I think that comes across in all of them. And while obviously a lot of these characters didn't really stand out for me, it's still none of them were like, to me, felt like they were like out of place. Mm-hmm. Everyone here felt like they were treating it the same amount of seriousness. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's probably not, especially in the case of Demon Radical's leader, it's probably not a great idea to treat that scene as goofy. So, Origin, because two of the characters in this list are involved in some pretty bad shit in this movie. So,
yep.
And technically three of them, if you count Spider Lady. So.
Look, this movie's rough, but for certain specific definitions of rough.
It's not a great feminist tale. We'll say that.
Nope. Actually, to your point, I a while ago I was if you go on the Because if you go on the Cartoon Research website, I believe, there is a column on there that Fred Patton wrote before he passed away, which is basically him like talking about the history of Streamline while he was working there. And one thing that stuck out while I was reading that is apparently when they started doing dubs, Carl Macek had one particular thing that he insisted on staying on, which is that all of their dubs would be union. Like that was a very important point for him, because his attitude is like, we are not just going to hire schmucks off the street or do it ourselves. We're going to get real actors who are like, they're part of the union. They get actual work outside of this, and those are the people we're going to have to bring in to dub these things, because we want these to be good. We want these to sound professional. I feel like definitely in stuff like this you can see that. Like these sound like, real actors going up there, and like, they're given an understanding of the character. Like these ones in particular, I agree with you with Eddie. It's like Eddie Marin, she really captures the like. At first, like, Spider-Woman, she seems very sensual, and then when like she turns into her demon form, she like maintains that, but it now comes across as much more menacing. It was like, this is a really good performance for this character.
I genuinely would like to know like the actor's experiences working on this, like. It just in general, like how they felt about it, because, I mean, it was the 90s, so maybe they saw it in a different light than we would necessarily, but it would be interesting to me, like, for, I mean, like, let's, I hate to bring up Berserk for the millionth time, but, like,
sure.
Look at the Berserk outtakes, for example, and, like, the scene where Griffith becomes Femto, he's flying around singing na 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 Batman, and it's just, and another example is like the bloopers for Silence of the Lambs, one of the darkest movies of the 90s, and the blooper reel is one of the funniest things you'll ever watch. So
sometimes when you're working on the dark material, that almost makes the levity more important.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking. Is like, did they have to like be silly and be free to like be able to finish this? You know?
I'm of the opinion that like all anime releases should come with a Berserk style blooper reel of whatever nonsense they committed to tape they have sitting around still. Like I always find that stuff both interesting and just funny.
Yeah.
And I could easily see that for something like this, because it's so like it is so not like po-faced, but it's very serious, and it takes itself, it's a serious movie.
I'm glad it takes itself seriously, because otherwise,
me too.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be entertaining. So
the funny version of this movie would be like just unwatchable. I feel like it's just like, oh, this is so inappropriate.
Lady's got a like vagina with teeth, and then Taki's like, well, that happened. You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. You got me good there, though.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, like there's a lot of like even all the one-off characters sound really well put together and strong. Yeah. And also just this one, it's fun just because a lot of the one-off characters are just like other like Streamline regulars who are popping up in there. There's like a one-off. Like one of the leads like coworkers runs by, and it's like, it's Steve Kramer. There's like a random demon who fights him at the airport, and one of them is Michael McConaughey.
I think I heard Michael McConaughey. I could have sworn I heard Dan Warren somewhere in there.
He might be in here as well. There's also one of these ones where like there's enough like bit parts that I could imagine there are people who are like not like officially uncredited. It's just like, they have, hey, you were in for something else, would you mind doing a little like, just bit parts or walla for this?
Exactly. It's like an hour job, so
it's like, hey, you want to make an extra, hey, I'll pay you an extra $50 if you do some walla for me, or something like that. Yeah, there's one of these things where like I don't have a lot of like real specifics to say on a lot of them, but just like, Jeff is really good at being menacing. Kerrigan's got kind of like the slimy, not quite cool guy, but it's like, yeah, this is a slimy 80s guy in sunglasses vibe. I like this. David just, I don't know, he sells that character a lot more than I was expecting. I wasn't thinking like the nameless hotel manager to be like a figure of any note, and it's just like, okay, this is pretty good.
A lot of sincerity, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think something that helps this dub a lot is, we were talking about earlier, like the people making it, like they understood the tone really well, and they were able to match that. And I feel like even, like I'm often not familiar with a lot of these people outside their work in anime, but they always have the vibe of like, long-running TV character actors who are very used to, like, they get a script, they figure out their character within like 5 minutes of getting that, and they are good to go. Right. They're just good at turning in good, consistent, solid work. But especially for like this character's on screen for maybe like 10 whole minutes. Like that's a good skill to have.
Right.
All right. Was there anything you wanted to add, or just like any other one-off characters that stuck out to you?
Probably the lady in the red dress who we see her butt, maybe.
Yeah, or the leader's like
Girl Friday.
He's credited as like her assistant, I guess, or something. Which she was also very memorable.
Yeah,
it's her weird little psychosexual freak out for Taki there.
Webs coming out of her phallic chest,
Oh. Yeah, if you like evil women, this will be a fun movie for you to watch. A lot of evil women in here.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Oh yeah. On that note, would you like to head on over to our leads and talk about them? Yeah. We have our leads for the movie. First up, we have Taki Renzaboru. He is he's your average salary man. He's like a lower manager at an electronics company. He's an extremely normal, average life, except he's also an agent for the Blackguard, which are basically sort of your... They're your Men in Black of this universe. They are there to deal with demon affairs as need be. So this is why he's encountering spider women and has to go on and protect this weird guy we're going to talk about in a minute, because it's his job.
Right.
And apparently this is part of the reason the books got popular, because naturally a lot of salarymen are like, man, I wish I had this exciting life.
Yeah, because he's basically James Bond and Men in Black. That's pretty much it.
Yep. Pretty much.
It's a cool concept, honestly. I will admit that.
No, I was actually I'll bring this up a little later, but like a couple of they're not like in print anymore, unfortunately. Right. But like a couple of these novels were translated to English like at the end of the 2000s, and I was initially hoping to try and read one, and then I saw that it's like I can't find it in any libraries, and the cheapest copy on Amazon is like a used one for about $200, and I'm not buying.
I was thinking about how interesting it would be if they tried to make a new anime based on Wicked City. Just like if he had like the modern handsome anime man kind of look to him, like he looked like, I don't know, your typical handsome Asian man kind of character. I was just thinking, like, how would Wicked City translate to a modern audience exactly? Obviously you couldn't necessarily do, and you shouldn't probably do some of the things this movie does. So
absolutely not. I know at least some of that I know is at least a little punched up a little from the movie. Yeah. Like, the it's a men's adventure novel. It's not like squeaky clean by any imagination.
The books aren't considered that great anyway. So
I'm not. I have a lot of respect for Kikuchi as like a dude who invents things, but I have gotten the impression that he is very much an
idea guy more than a.
He strikes me as what's true for a lot of, like, because technically these are light novels, which is that like calling them airport novels isn't quite the same, but they are that same level of, like, they're very readable, they're very fun, they are not necessarily
high art,
great literature. Yeah, and nor are they written as great literature. They're often they're designed to be a fun beach read you can plow through in a couple.
Yeah, and I'm a Vampire Hunter D fan, so I can't really say that this stuff I dislike this stuff, because Vampire Hunter D is awesome. I mean, it's not the deepest written series, but it's cool. It's vampires fighting dinosaurs on Mars, like.
I mean, if you can't get behind that, what are you even doing, right?
Exactly,
I don't need deep thematics sometimes. Sometimes I just want to look at something cool or read about it. It's great. So we have Taki, and we have his partner Maki.
Makie? I think that's how it's pronounced.
Makie. All right, Makie. I think you're right. Yeah. Makie, who is she is from the demon world. She is their representative. She also wears a really sharp suit, and she can do all sorts of weird, freaky demon stuff, like grow her nails out like she's Lady Deathstrike.
Exactly. I was wondering if like Lady Deathstrike was inspired by her or something like that, but
I'm trying to remember who invented. I don't remember, because I can't remember if Lady Deathstrike is one of those X-Men characters who's like way older than I think she is or not.
Was she a Frank Miller creation? Hang on.
That's the thing, I'm not sure. Like, I always associate her with like sort of the Jim Lee years, but I don't know if she predates that. I don't know if she's like a Jim Lee creation.
She is from 83, so I don't think so.
Okay.
She was created by Denny O'Neil? Really? Well, he loves his Asian ladies, so I mean.
Wait, in what? What was he writing that she was
in Daredevil. She first appeared in Daredevil.
She's a Daredevil. That's wow, really? Jesus.
I mean,
Oh, that's from the post Frank Miller run. God,
Yeah.
that's weird.
I mean, like I said, Denny O'Neil loves his Asian ladies, so
Wacky. Huh.
That's crazy. I didn't know Denny O'Neil created Lady Deathstrike. That's really interesting.
She's an X-Men character in my mind. I didn't even think she came from another
Yeah.
book.
Well, they
Wow.
probably retconned her to have her more with Wolverine's origin. So.
Yeah, that makes that I definitely believe.
Anyway, back to anime.
Anyways, yeah, she can grow her nails out and stab people and use her hair to strangle people to death. And towards the end, she gets lightning powers, so that's fun.
She's a cool concept, honestly. Like as a character, she's a really cool concept. So.
Oh yeah, no, she was definitely one of those characters where it's like I feel like if you were in a either a more respectable movie or there have been more movies based on these books, Makie feels like she would be at the very least a perennial that little tweet out like 90s anime babes. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Makie is
so
unique that she would stand out in like a waifu list. And I know it's goofy to say it that way, but I mean we live in anime culture, so this is just how we talk. But if Wicked City was more popular today, she would stand out amongst a long list of very similar women in waifu lists.
100%, yeah. Look, I'm sure there are a lot of people who I'm sure it's like they see her walk up in that nice suit and it's like, oh hi,
hello, mommy,
hello. Exactly. Yeah. And then rounding out our leads, we have Giuseppe Maillard. He is a impossibly old little man who was apparently integral to the last time they signed this treaty, hundreds of years ago.
Or not. I don't really understand what happened.
I think what happens is that is true, but the Lynch... So, spoilers.
Yeah. We have to go into spoilers now if we're talking about
spoilers. Giuseppe. Yeah, 40 minutes in, I hope you don't mind having the movie spoiled. As it turns out, the idea is Taki and Makie are told that he is the linchpin to these talks going well, and that apparently is a lie they have been fed. What is actually the key pin is to, basically they need to have a baby to be someone needs to have a half-human, half-demon baby that'll basically kind of be like a figurehead for the ongoing peace between these two worlds. And these two apparently are compatible. And this has all been kind of a ploy to get them to shack up together.
What? Okay, look, I want to make this clear. I have nothing against, female characters having a maternal aspect to them. I'm actually okay with that. But Makie did not sign on for this, okay? She didn't know that she was going to be pregnant with the Chosen One.
Sometimes you can watch a movie and just say, man wrote this. And you know what?
It's fine, but I am just why did you feel the need to have this twist? I don't understand.
This is very much the kind of thing where it's I don't know if this is good writing, but this feels like the correct writing for the kind of nonsense this is. So I don't question it. I don't question it too much, even if it's ridiculous on its face. Oh,
in theory, it's not that bad, honestly, but it just feels so unnecessary. That's all.
There's a level of convolution to it that feels like a little too much. But Giuseppe. As it turns out, he's actually one of the people who's trying to make sure this all goes off without a hitch, and he is a character in the proud tradition of the annoying old pervert school of anime characters. So if you don't care for those characters, you might also want to give this a skip.
To be fair, he might actually be better than Muten Roshi, honestly. He's pretty consensual in everything he does, honestly. So.
He's like louder but less of a creep. Yeah. Somehow it's an odd
combination. Maybe not to Makie, honestly, but
No, Frank, it's one of those things where it's you know what? Actually, that's true. He's one of the few versions of these characters where his goal is just I want to go to a brothel. Can we go to a brothel?
I just want to get laid. Can I get laid, please?
There's an attractive lady in a soapland a couple blocks over. Let's go there.
I just played Yakuza and I'm really in the mood now.
Oh. Anyways, but who's playing these characters? Well, Playing Giuseppe, we have Michael Reynolds, the late great Michael Reynolds, who you've definitely heard in something because he was Bob Bragan in Golgo 13, The Professional. He was, to my amusement, there was like some movie got some TV series got edited into a pair of movies at some point for like kids that are Christmas themed, and he plays Santa Claus in that, which I thought was very funny. And of course, the thing that like me and everyone else my age knows him from, which he was Genai in Digimon.
Okay. This is
which
you're getting out of my territory, unfortunately.
It's mostly funny because he's putting on a little bit of a funny voice for this role, but I can hear enough of his natural speaking voice in there that it's like, oh, that's definitely Michael Reynolds. Yeah. Oh, this is.
It's moments like this I wish I had been a Digimon kid so I could know what you guys are talking about, but
if you've heard him do an old man role before, it's just that voice. It's just funny that like, wait, really? You were this kid? Anytime one of these things happen and it's like, you were in that kid show that I watched, it's always like, what?
Especially after watching this, Oh,
100%. Very much. Especially when, it's something that's a little more like tame, it's not so bad, but it's stuff like this is like, oh my. Oh. It's like someone out there knows Kurt Russell from that Horse Girl movie he did, and then they saw him in something else and they're like, what?
Yeah.
The nice dad from the Horse Girl movie was in... What? No.
You see him as Snake Plissken, basically?
Yeah, 100%. It's like, what? No, I thought he was Dreamboat. What is this? I mean, he's still kind of a Dreamboat, but he's got an eye patch.
He's aged great. He's aged great, but,
That's true. Absolutely. Playing Makie, we have an actress named Gail Kruger, who does not have a lot to her name, actually.
Yeah, I've never heard of her. Right.
This is the only VO role I could find for her, and her acting role outside of that is short. She plays a character in I want you to brace yourself for this, a TV movie called The Scarlett O'Hara War, which is basically a biopic on casting Scarlett O'Hara in the 30s Gone with the Wind movie.
Okay.
My understanding is like that was a very contentious like thing in Hollywood at the time. Why it warranted a TV movie in the 80s, I couldn't tell you, other than Hollywood likes telling stories about it.
Well, I mean, I'm the kind of schmuck who actually finds Hollywood backstory kind of interesting. So maybe I'd actually that. I don't know. So.
I do. I mean, I do too. It's like it's one of these things where it's like, I think you can get this on like you get recent editions of the Gone with the Wind. It's on there as like a bonus feature. So like I don't know, maybe I should check it out one day. And all the roles beyond that are like one-off roles, and like 8 is enough. She plays like a secretary in Mr. Mom. Apparently these days, at some point she retired, and now she runs like a advertising consultant business with her husband, I believe, or something like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So like her, if you go to like IMDb, her entire filmography is like 10 movies. I think like she had a very short acting career.
Typically, people with short acting careers become like realtors or something like that. So
that doesn't. Yeah, that's like that makes sense. Like you went into something that was more profitable and more stable. That checks out. And Taki is being played by Gregory Snegoff, who co-directed the movie, wrote it, and he has all sorts of acting roles back in the day. He's Bao in Birth, he is Ray in the Fist of the North Star movie, and of course he is Chiron in Robotech, because it just delights me how many people used to work in Robotech. It's like, man, that started a lot of careers, didn't it?
Yeah.
Good times.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's Carl Macek. That's where he got his start.
It's Carl Macek. I know, it's just like, oh, these actors are all functional and competent. I should give them more work. That'd be a great idea. Which, you know what? Good. I'm Tony Oliver's first big anime role is being the guy in Robotech. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
Anyways. What do you think of these roles?
I think they're all pretty dang good, honestly. Even Michael Reynolds, who kind of plays him a bit sillier, but okay, he was Golgo 13 too. All right, I wanted to make sure that Gregory Snegoff was Golgo. But I think everybody Makie took a little getting used to, because I kind of felt like her voice was a little older than Makie should sound. But as the course of the movie progressed, I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel this voice. I think I'm cool with it. But even Giuseppe's shitty old man voice, I kind of bought it, honestly. I was like, whatever. He's the most cartoony character in this, so it kind of fits. Like, and I think Gregory Snegoff is fantastic in this, honestly. Like, I think he manages to play Taki like just the right amount of like cool guy, but still actually giving him personality. And I honestly think Gregory Taki, like his is the standout performance in this whole dub. honestly, because I think he plays Taki exactly how you need to play this character. So,
No, I agree. Oh, continue.
well, yeah, that's pretty much it. So,
okay, no, I agree. Especially like I think Gregory, I think does like a great job with Taki. He very much nails the kind of like he's like he's handsome and he's cool and he dresses well. And he has this giant fucking revolver that he blows up demons with. Like, I think
with that weird addition to it to kill demons. Like,
apparently, if you read the books, they they're very upfront. Like, it is a magnum, and it is a magnum because somebody likes Dirty Harry.
I mean, that's
that's
like, anime. That's
duh.
anime like adult projects like writing right there for you, where it's like the writer really loves something from Western like media and wants to put it in their project. So,
I mean, look, all I know is I haven't seen any of the Bubblegum Crisis things, but all I know is one of them basically starts with the same opening as Streets of Fire.
Oh yeah, no, the opening sequence is straight up from Streets of Fire. Yeah.
Which, as someone who loves that movie, it is mad that it just kind of bombed here, and it's just sort of a weird cult following. It delights me that in Japan it was like, we gotta put this in everything, guys. This is great. Look at this. Look at this. Willem Dafoe's a greaser, and he's gonna get into a sledgehammer duel with somebody.
Exactly.
Anyways, and I think Gregory does a wonderful job. And I like Gay's performance as Maki a lot. Like, I think she nails a similar like. They're both like their line is very much like they're just cool, tough, badass people, and I think she does a really good job of like bringing that to Makie in a way that I'm not terribly. I feel like I don't see this a lot in. I don't want to say anime in general because that's not true, but I feel like your tough female leading badasses they are not the most common in the world. It's felt nice to have like another one kind of get added to that list, and especially by an actress who. I mean, I was not familiar with for obvious reasons. One thing I did find interesting about their joint performance, because I checked when in 1993 this movie came out, and the timeline on this means it predates it, but I got a little bit of a Mulder and Scully vibe from them, which I did think was interesting because this got released like a month before the first X-Files episode came out.
Okay, all right, yeah,
and So that's just a coincidence, but I just think I thought that was interesting mostly because for like this show, it was like, hey, the X-Files would actually be a really good like starting point, like secret agents dealing with weird stuff. There's romantic tension.
I'm actually surprised there was never an X-Files anime. Now that you mention it, but there's a Supernatural anime, so
there was X-Files manga.
Oh,
and I know this because I was in a bookstore and they had a very small foreign language collection, and there was like one there, and it was just like a manga version of one of the episodes, but I didn't buy it just because I'd never heard of this, and it was like, if I don't get this now, I'm never gonna be able to find it again. I'm gonna take one of these. That would have been great though. Yeah. It's sad we didn't get that.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I just learned something I kind of wish I hadn't on BTVA. But
oh no!
Well, just finish what you're saying, and then I'll say.
All right, sure. Anyway, so like they're not going for that one specifically, obviously, because it didn't exist yet. But I feel like that's the kind of relationship it feels like the two characters have, and I feel like they play off each other really well in that sense. They're just, these two very cool people who eventually they're in love. And I don't know. It's a kind of like sort of frothy, like soapy aspect to these things that I really enjoy.
I didn't hate that aspect of it. I just felt like the movie kind of lost its mind there for a minute and decided to just throw this in.
It's like them getting into a relationship. Fine. All the stuff with like the baby's gonna bring our two worlds together. It was like, well, I'm not surprised, but this is a lot.
Yeah, like it literally could have just ended them with them in bed and the movie's over. And that would have been fine,
Yeah. And I think I agree with you. Like Michael, like Giuseppe's a lot.
Yeah,
he's a lot. But I think Michael does give the correct performance for that character, which I do appreciate. It's like I do think he hits the right level of like, he's wise and old man. Sort of a big weirdo. He's very little. There's very little subtlety with Giuseppe Bayer. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And he's clearly having fun with the role, which I feel like is nice in this movie because so much of it is like relatively like like serious and like, you know, violent and so on, that it's kind of nice to have this just goofball pop up occasionally to break the tension. So like, how you feel about Giuseppe is probably going to, you know, vary a lot from person to person. But I think Michael turns in a really good role for this character, which I appreciate.
It is what it is when it comes to him.
Yeah. All right. What were you going to tell me?
So I'm scrolling through BTVA trying to look at what Gregory Snegoff is up to, and I scroll down. I find out a couple things. And I say this as someone who is also a voice actor, and I know someday people will laugh at maybe some of the roles I've been in. He was in both those animated Titanic movies.
That's right, I knew
and
that.
And not only that, in Titanic The Legend Goes On, he was the fucking rapping dog.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
He's the rapping dog.
He is the rapping dog. He is the party time dog.
Oh, man. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you can thank Mr. Snegoff for that meme, basically.
I hope he was paid well for his time. He's
I don't know. Dubbing a shitty Italian animated movie, I don't know if that's going to pay well, so...
I hope he got union scale at least. Oh. All right, well, trying to think of anything else pertinent I want to add. Again, Gregory's strong, Gay is strong, Michael's strong. I mean, well, do you want to go to final thoughts now?
I think so,
else
yeah.
You want to add? All right, I think this is like a really strong dub for like a movie that's definitely very interesting, and I think maybe not to everyone's taste, but you can definitely tell that like the people making this put a lot of effort into making sure they're putting in like a good, appropriate dub for this kind of movie. Which again, we were saying Streamline generally didn't futz too much with their stuff. You know, you're not getting too, nothing was getting too off the wall. But again, this is from the Wild West days where there's just, there's very little oversight. You could take a lot more liberties, and it is interesting watching something like this. It is kind of a relatively, serious movie for, adults / quote adults unquote.
Don't let your kids watch.
It's like, well, these movies are normally aimed at adults, but they're mostly rented by 16-year-olds with fake IDs,
exactly.
So,
yeah. The guy at the video store who just doesn't give a shit. He's like, whatever, dude, take it, I don't care.
It's like, look, you pay me the $10, some adult checked it out, I wasn't paying attention. It's just like a good, nice, strong dub for a fun... I think not entirely forgotten, but I think definitely on the side of like this is mostly something that like old heads and people interested in the history of the stuff are into, and not necessarily like
guys like us,
the general like population. Yeah,
guys 100%. Like us who will watch Demon Slayer, but we also love this kind of stuff. So
exactly.
And if you love Demon Slayer, maybe don't watch this.
I know it has demons in it, but
you're not going to get the same experience.
No one has a sword. Let's hope that keeps you away from it.
Well,
actually, no. So I guess someone does, doesn't they?
Yeah. Well, in all honesty, I didn't really like this movie very much. Mm-hmm. It's too weird, and I'm the guy who likes weird, obscure anime like this. But even I was kind of just like, this is not the kind of stuff I'm really into. The stuff I'm into is like Dirty Pair and Space Adventure Cobra, the fun stuff, the stuff that you don't really have to like see bad things in it as much. So
no, I get that. This is very much on the like sort of grotesque 80s horror side of that kind of anime, which like I enjoy that, but I also recognize that is not to everyone's taste. Not everyone is gonna like a movie where like some guy gets his head blown off and it turns into the head monster from the Thing. Like I enjoy that as an Easter egg. That's not for everybody though.
But at the same time, I understand that this is an important part of anime history, and that like I don't know how much it influenced the industry, but I'm sure it influenced some things. I did notice some Berserk parallels to it. And I think that the dub really elevates it a lot, honestly, because I think these are the kind of anime when you get like American actors in an English dub, it really helps because this is clearly so Western influenced that having American actors actually in the project gives it that extra oomph that I think the Japanese like filmmakers were looking for. So.
Yeah, and I know that's I know like one of the things that is notable about this is like Kawajiri's like first solo like long form thing that he directed by himself. Because he co-directed Lensman with another animator actually.
It always comes back to Lensman.
It always comes back to I'm starting to feel like Lensman's one of those weird things where like it is, for as obscure as it is now, it was very pivotal at the time.
Yeah.
Anyways,
No, it's fine. I was just gonna say it's like the perfect culmination of like Western and Eastern pop culture together,
exactly.
basically. So
yeah, and nothing else. Like, you know, he would go. I mean, he go on a fairly big name for a few years. You know, you're doing this and Demon City Shinjuku and Ninja Scroll, and he still works in the industry. Apparently, he's just mostly a key animator these days. The one I found funniest is he's done a bunch of key animating work on Chihaya Furu, like the card game anime about Hanafuda.
Oh.
Which is not something I would expect a guy who makes stuff like this in Vampire D Bloodlust as his day job would do, but he's a talented guy with a lot of variety in his skill set, I guess. Good for him.
And I love Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. Do not get me wrong. That is genuinely one of my favorite anime movies.
I think rocks.
Yeah.
It's like when I think of like why do I like Kawajiri, it's like stuff like that's why I like it. Like,
it's one of the few projects I think he did that actually has a really good story along with great animation. So
yeah. All right. You have anything you want to add?
Not really.
All right. No. All right. Well, thank you for listening to our episode of Summer at the Movies. We are Dub Talk. You can find us on YouTube and Podbean as a Dub Talk podcast. We are also on Twitter for as long as that lasts. I think we're technically on Tumblr and Instagram. I don't think we update those very often because that's time consuming and we're not that interested in trying to do that there. But we are there. You can give us a follow and we'll maybe post stuff occasionally. We are also, if you'd like to help support us, we have a Ko-fi that you can use to make one-time donations. You'll find a link for that in the description. And we also have a Patreon. You'll also find a link for that in the description below. And if you want to support us at certain tiers, you can get your name called out on the show like so. At the $5 tier, we'd like to thank Megan's mom and dad, Michelle Travis, Julia W., and Victor Maybaroda. And at the $10 tier, we would like to thank Anthony Brown, Carly Lesticow, Marissa Lenti, and Utaku Anthony. If you would like to watch Wicked City, it is available on home video on both DVD and Blu-ray from Discotek Media. I think I read apparently like manga's like UK branch, which still exists in some capacity, was trying to do a home video release. I don't know if that ever came out though. So, and so if you're UK based, you can look around for that. It is also streaming in a variety of places. It is on High Dive, Retro Crush, Midnight Pulp, Tubi TV, and Pluto TV. I believe for the first three of those, you will need a subscription to those services. But Tubi and Pluto are both just free in general, so you can go watch that there. Lack, where can people find you on the internet?
It is probably best to find me on YouTube and TikTok. On YouTube, I am at Lack the Watcher. That is spaces in between those three words. On TikTok, it is all just one word. I currently am sitting at 12,200 and something subscribers on YouTube. So if you want to keep up with me, I make silly voice acting videos based around old anime, like this, sort of.
I feel like
my latest upload was just this Friday of a silly little video of me parodying Ashita no Joe. So if you want to check that out, you can either on YouTube or on Twitter, or on TikTok. And yeah, that's basically it. You can follow me on Twitter at Lack the Watcher as well. I am also a VTuber. I do that. I stream. And yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me. I've also got like a couple things that I can't announce yet exactly, but I am going to be in a couple of upcoming video games. One of which was announced at the Future Games Festival, which I was surprised to find out that happened because I didn't watch it this year. But yeah, I'll let you all know when I can announce it. So
nice. So you all follow him somewhere so you can find out and then go buy it and support good voice acting. Ashita no Joe feels like a better fit for trying to do funny videos on YouTube than this, which would probably just get flagged immediately.
I mean, I make Berserk funny videos, so I can't really be all that judgmental, you know, so...
I mean, look, Berserk's a very, very serious, well-drawn story, and that does not mean it is not right for comedy. That sometimes helps, frankly.
The latest one I did was making fun of the fact that like Puck is of questionable gender, and that's Guts' problem. So,
oh boy. Oh. All right. You can find me mostly on Twitter. I'm on Duel US. Duel is spelled with 2 U's. I also have links on a pin post on there to various other places that I sort of hang out at, but not really. So until Twitter implodes, that's where you can mostly find me. I also do streaming on the Dub Talk Twitch channel. I probably won't be playing it anymore by the time this comes out, but I'm currently playing a bizarre little indie RPG called Hylics, which I would sort of describe as... Playing Hylics is a little like your older cousin trying to explain Earthbound to you, but you've never played it. You don't really understand what he's talking about, and it just sounds very weird. I like it, but, that's me. And as is tradition with these, I'm going to give you a dusty old song to take you off with. And for this one, I'm actually going to pick something by an artist who is in this movie. If you watch this movie, there is a couple of insert songs by a singer named Hitomi Toyama. She was a jazz singer from the 80s. She apparently was one of these people where she, I think was like trained in English and sang a lot in English. She seems to have done some sort of interesting, if you're into like, 80s J-pop, city pop, that kind of thing, she seems like an artist you should check out. And I'm going to recommend a song of hers called Seven Course No Prologue, which was released as a single. It's from an album from hers that also came out in 1987 called One Scene, and it was released as a single with the 2 songs she did for this movie, presumably so you wouldn't have to buy this random anime soundtrack to get her material. It's pretty good. It's apparently about like a woman writing like a letter to someone she just broke up with, kind of talking about why the relationship ended. It's good.
Did it get released in the States at all?
Actually, if you want to, you can get the soundtrack to this movie in America. Tiger Vinyl, who've been doing like anime soundtrack reissues, did a version of this. It does not have those 2 insert songs on it. I'm assuming just for licensing reasons. Right. That said, you can also find, like, these are like officially uploaded on like YouTube and Spotify, like everything is these days. So like they're not hard. Like, you want to get on CD, that might be a troll. You just want to listen to it, that's easy peasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is our episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you were entertained and can figure out if you want to actually watch Wicked City or not.
Yeah. Look, if you're into this kind of stuff, just watch it. Yep. But again, if you're like 15, don't probably.
Please, this is an R-rated movie. Please do not watch it under the age of 17
for a very good reason. You don't want your parents walking in while you're watching this.
Don't, like it's going to lead to a lot of awkward conversations. Don't do it.
Yeah,
just don't. Save yourself the pain.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for listening.
Goodbye.
Rock over Boston. Rock on Chicago.